Hiroshima. Okay, it's called the Enola Gay. Now, it dropped Fat Boy and Little Boy, right?
Yep.
Is that, okay.
Yep.
And
Colonel Tibbets. Colonel Tibbets was the
and some people came in and they said, how can you have a weapon of destruction like that, something that killed that many people that quickly? They said, well, if you notice, there's also a red bonnet around it. And I said, what's the red bonnet? They said, well, that red bonnet actually, that belonged to a little child who had rickets because she couldn't get enough calcium and she was dying. But after that bomb was dropped, 4 days later, the concentration camp that she was kept in was liberated because she was a little girl, and that little girl ended up being my wife, who then gave me children. So I actually like this fucking plane because it saved my wife's life, and I have two beautiful children.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. Hold on. But by the way, there's a large argument among historians where they believe that Japan had been trying to quit and concede victory for 2 weeks before we dropped the bombs.
That is
wanted to drop those bombs anyway.
There's just as much and more evidence on the other side that suggests that Japan was not going to quit, and in fact, it was going to cost up to 2 million American lives to storm Japan. And I say, fuck them. I'm sorry. And I get very emotional about this because Japan started that fucking war, and they were so horrific during that war.
Hold on. You also know that they were goaded into attacking Pearl Harbor, and in fact, we knew they were attacking Pearl Harbor.
We don't know that, and I disagree with that.
The fucking History Channel, they had professors from 3 different universities that were standing up there talking about how they decoded all this information. They knew Japan was going to, that's why they pulled out these battleships.
Very well.
But they pulled out critical battleships because they couldn't afford to lose them.
That is not true. Professors say that are simply theorizing. And if you listen to I've been listening to this argument for 25 years. If you actually look at the current literature, I just read a book about this. I had a long talk with you. If you look at the current literature, that theory has simply been debunked. There's no way the United States lost a quarter of our quarter of the Navy was crippled because of that aggression. Now, there was a lot of internal debate in Japan about whether or not to go to war. But the fact of the matter is that Japan not only started that war back. Talk to the Chinese about what Japan, that they've still never apologized for. They've never apologized for anything they did in World War II to this day. And that's what Japan has never lived up to. And they should be ashamed of themselves. Because their behavior in World War II was not only just aggressive, it was inhuman, and they've never taken responsibility for it.
Well, first of all, hold on. You're talking about them like they're one person. Like they're the same person today.
I'm indicting, of course.
You're going crazy nationalism on me now.
No, I'm not being nationalistic.
You are a little, because you're saying they, and they haven't taken responsibility. They're not even the same humans.
They're not the same humans,
but you are right about the rape of Dan King. I have that documentary.
Yeah.
It's fucking horrific.
Yeah, but it goes on.
They did.
It goes on. But I'm mad at the Japanese government, not the Japanese people at all. There's a lot to be respected about Japanese
but you're saying
culture.
Fuck them, and the people that got killed were civilians.
I'm speaking as if I'm in 1945, and I'm saying that what ended that war was those 2 bombs. Now, vaporizing 100,000 people is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. But what I'm saying is that when you're a commander in a war like that, you're truman, and they come to you and they say, we can take Japan, we can storm Japan, we'll probably lose 1 million American soldiers, or we can drop bombs on them. That'll end the war tomorrow. You say to your commanders, drop those bombs.
Also say Japanese lives, by the way.
Japan has to take responsibility for that as well. That's what I'm trying to say.
Maybe that happened, but it also might have happened that they wanted to fucking use these bombs. They wanted to let everybody know, even if Japan wanted to concede defeat, listen, bitch, we're going to try these shits on you because we made them, and this is what we have.
I don't believe.
Let's stop all this crazy take over the world nonsense.
I don't
ask any government or any administration.
Brian does, and Brian takes the Fox News point of view on a lot of different things. You do. You get a little bit crazy, and you don't concede that the government is capable of doing some horrific things. But when you bring up things like Operation Northwoods, and you know that they were going to kill American soldiers and bring it on the Cubans, that's absolutely factual.
I don't put anything past the U.S. government or any other government.
Right. Okay. So then why would you think they would be unwilling to drop bombs on something?
I think it's very hard to get away. I think the way our government is structured. Let me be very clear about this. I don't trust our government. I don't trust people in power, Americans or anybody else, and I don't put anything past somebody in power. So let me be very clear. Absolutely. What I mean to say is, whenever people say things like, for example, we want to drop a bomb, it's very hard. It's very hard to win. What happens the way our government is structured structured, is you get into a war room with a lot of people who are civilians that military people have to answer to. And there are about 25, but there are about 25 different. And read Woodward's book called The War Room, Bush and War. Fascinating, because what happens in a war room is there are 25 opinions, and everybody's vying for their and they have intellectual debates the way all of us would. They have their point of view, and they talk about consequences. And believe me, a lot of guys in there are going, there are moral points of view and everything else. I don't want to kill a bunch of people. So what happens is, finally, it gets whittled down to 4 or 5 arguments. The president goes into a room and he has to choose. But when you come into a room with a bunch of guys and you say, hey, I think we should drop this bomb because I want to see if it works.
It's not like that.
Yeah, it's not like that, but I'm saying that those arguments
you just really complexified the process of how to, figure out what to do. And then on the other side, you simplified it down to a ridiculous, sort of a cartoonish,
I didn't mean to do
let's
that.
see if it
I'm
works.
just trying to paraphrase.
But look at the Gulf of Tonkin. For sure, we know that they faked this attack in order to bring people into the Vietnam War. For sure, we know that they knew that there was no weapons of mass destruction, and yet they brought us into Iraq. For sure, we knew that the Operation Northwood, signed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was going to kill American civilians.
I agree.
They were going to kill American soldiers. They were going to arm Cuban friendlies. That's evil shit, and no one ever went to jail for any of that stuff.
That's right.
So those are the same goddamn people that would have been responsible for all the other different things that could have been done.
I agree with you 100%. All I'm trying to say is that I think it is.
So you're saying that they did all this horrific shit, but they wouldn't do horrific shit?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that
maybe it's a factor. Maybe it's weighted in.
It's one of the factors. What I'm saying is that when you decide to drop a bomb on Nagasaki, you do it for a laundry list of reasons.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I disagree. And this is what I disagree with. I think that you are saying that they would not consider doing that. You are saying that they wouldn't do that, it couldn't happen. You're saying definitively, he's saying definitively that it wouldn't happen because this is how the process goes. I think you're dead wrong. I don't think you know how the process goes. And I think even reading books where Bob Woodward's describing the war room, I don't think you have a fucking clue as to how the process was going on in 1947. I think it's massive amounts of speculation. 99% of the shit is classified. And we know about a lot of fucking, even to the Freedom of Information Act. I was reading up about the Pearl Harbor shit. One of the reasons why they can't come up with a definitive reason or a definitive answer as to whether or not the government had prior knowledge is because of how many papers were classified.
But we dropped the bombs. We dropped the bombs because it was going to end the war.
Maybe.
That's
we might have dropped the bombs because the war might have been on its way out anyway, and we might have wanted to let them know what the fuck was up. There might have been an excuse to use them. It is possible. Look, they didn't drop them on military checkpoints. They didn't drop them on the army. They dropped them on 2 cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki,
which were military cities.
Yeah, but they dropped them on the civilians, man. Well, sort of. It's a city. It's a city.
It was the worst war. It was the most horrific war. It was hell on earth.
Well, it was the first time we had
Dresden looked like the surface of the moon.
It's the first time we know, as far as that we had the capabilities to do something like that.
Look at the difference between Dresden before the Allied bombing. It was conventional weapons, incendiary bombs, and Tokyo before and after. It is so horrific.
It's amazing that it was not that long ago. That's the most incredible thing about the World War II.
It was such a vicious war, and it was so ruthless on both sides. But what I always just say is that the aggressors of that war were imperialist powers. They were Japan and they were Germany, and the sole objective was a group of men who had total control over their population, and their objective was world domination. And that's the difference.
Imagine if they came through with it. Imagine how different.
I've thought about it.
How fascinating would it be if there wasn't a United States, and the United States was, let's get fucking crazy and decide that pilgrims never fucking came over here, and so this is just a bunch of Indians running around here, and no one even knows what's going on in Europe. And because that's not outside the realm of possibility. No. Because when you look at the window of opportunity between look at from 1700 to 1947. That ain't shit as far as the universe is concerned. And when you're talking about the fact that Europe had massive works of art, had all this incredible shit that they had already accomplished, all this amazing architecture, this amazing fucking history and written history, and there's people here running around with animal skins over their dicks, shooting arrows at deers at the same exact time.
Amazing?
It's amazing.
I know.
It's amazing. And if no one had the balls to get in a boat and come over here, who knows? I mean, it was a tiny spattering of population in 1947. That's really possible. It's crazy. So what the fuck would have happened?
Well,
if Hitler was still there, and Mussolini was still there, and whoever the fuck was the emperor of Japan, they were all got together at the time, and they really did the same thing, and they took over the whole world over there.
Yeah. But it was also a time, when they talk about World War II, and they talk about
Hirohito was a god.
He was a god.
He was a god.
He was thought to come from Amaterasu.
That was the first time they heard his voice.
Yeah.
The Japanese people had never heard his voice. They stopped everywhere.
And he told the country to surrender.
Yeah. Whoa.
And the Japanese people, there's video of it, Japanese people were jumping to their deaths as the Allies were coming in.
Well, the god was being piped in.
Yeah. And by the way, to anybody who's listening, who is Japanese, and anybody who's, I am not putting anything past the government. I'm not invading the Japanese people today. We're all people. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about governments, and I'm talking about men in power who still don't own up to responsibilities. That's
talking about the root of shit porn.
That's what I'm talking
We're
about.
talking about Japanese and Germans.
But
we're talking about.
Remember something.
Started a riot inside the PlayStation Theater, by the way.
We are watching the PlayStation Theater. There's a bunch of people in there, and they're watching the podcast, and that is nuts.
Nuts, and it looks just like a movie.
Come over here and turn around real quick. This is the strangest fucking shit ever. Somebody took a screen capture of it.
That's the PlayStation Home Theater number 3. You can watch us live. There's just people sitting there like Blue Ball Monkey and a couple other people.
That's so bizarre.
I love Sushi 30.
What a weird world we live in.
But what's
Jim, you're removed from the cultural experience.
There it is.
You're not even connected to this.
But what's relevant about what we're talking about is that like during that time in the world, it was a time of great political experimentation. It was this notion that you could perfect the human being with an ideology. You could perfect the human being with totalitarianism, control over the total person, and re-education, reprogramming of someone's mind.
Right.
And so treating a human being as though they were a noun. There's a blueprint or something. When human beings are obviously verbs, right?
You ever read War's a Racket?
No.
War's a Racket by this guy from he retired from the Marine Corps. He was a Major General, and Major General Smedley D. Butler, war hero. And after he retired in 1935, he wrote a book about how he had been misled, and all of his different campaigns have really just been about protecting bankers, protecting oil money, and he didn't really realize it until it was too late, until it was over. It's a fucking fascinating read, because if you read it and you didn't know like who this guy was or the time period that he's talking about, you would assume that this is a guy who recently defected from the army. You would assume that this is like some kind of shit, like some Gulf War guy who came over. There's a lot of soldiers who've come over. There's a bunch of different organizations where they have soldiers for peace, and they talk about their horrific experiences, and they talk about how bad war is and how war is unnecessary. Pat Tillman, after he volunteered, it was one of the reasons why his family suspected that he was actually killed, as he was getting very, very vocal about how fucked up the war was and how he had gone over there with perfect intentions, but once he got over there, he realized this is a disastrous clusterfuck of epic proportions. Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing, and we shouldn't be here in the first place, and everybody knows it. This Smedley Butler article he wrote a book actually. It's a fucking fascinating.
What was the year again on that?
1933, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's when he retired.
But that's the thing, when you read history, you start to realize a lot of these, like you hear speeches like back in the 30s and 40s, and you go, man, that's just as relevant today, just as it would be, back then.
It's incredible that this guy had figured it. 35 was when he wrote the book, and he was talking about how the U.S. is engaging in military war games in the Pacific that are bound to provoke the Japanese. He was talking about this in 1935. They know what the fuck they're doing. He wrote, "War is a racket. It's always been. It's possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It's one of the only intentional in scope. It is." International in scope. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in lives.
Dude, when you give the
history,
but it
Brian,
comes
let me say one thing. If anybody's listening, the history of war is the history of man.
Oh yeah,
and it's progress.
Yes, but the way you avoid the best way is not foolproof, but I believe the best way is to try to avoid horrific things like World War II that killed millions of innocent Japanese, innocent Germans, innocent Americans, so many innocent people, especially in Europe and especially but the way to avoid those horrific things is to have a political system in place that is transparent and gives people the power to make their own decisions.
Yeah, you know what that is? The internet.
There you go.
That's the future. This The internet is the future
You can't-
government
can't
of
lie
the
to
world.
people.
Well, they try to legislate it.
Yeah, that's why they're trying to shut it down. That's why they're trying to fucking put enforcements out. When they take down Mega Upload, what they're doing is testing the waters.
Yeah.
They're trying to figure out how much.
Don't give anybody too much power over you, whether
Yeah.
they're American, whether they're Japanese, whether they're German.
Absolutely.
They're all going to behave the same way.
The big lesson is that the people you're saying yes to today may not be the people you're saying yes to
Yeah.
10 or 20 years from now.
That's right.
And so you put a law in place now, some Dick Cheney evil cunt-faced douchebag is going to be in control in a couple of years, then you're fucked because that law's there.
And
That's
it
why
goes,
this
and it goes back to what you were saying. See, your cynicism about people in power is very healthy. So when you say, I don't put it past anybody, that's actually the right attitude. to have.
Absolutely.
Well,
That is the attitude.
And then, so it
Well,
always
based
goes
on
back, it goes back,
history and evidence.
exactly, and it goes back to the question that you have to answer. Who governs the government? Who governs the government?
yeah,
Who?
people.
The people.
The
It's gotta
internet.
be. Well, the only thing that I defend is when people come up with these theories, it's always more complicated, and I think that people try to make decisions. Most people try to make decisions based on their national interest, based on ambition, but I think there are a lot of factors that go into, say, for example, the Iraq
By
War.
most people making decisions.
Let's take the Iraq War.
See, I
The Iraq
disagree.
War was
I
an
think they do it to
idea.
make money. I
Well,
think they're doing it all to make money.
Only,
I don't think
but only the problem, the
they're not
architects.
doing any of that for the interest of the American people.
Well, can I say one thing? But the architects of, say, the intellectual architects of the Iraq War, for example, Paul Wolfowitz, Douglas Leith, I think what drove them was hubris and ambition and the notion that they themselves could change the world and restructure the world.
Well, also they became a war corporation, and one of the things about becoming a corporation is that there's a diffusion of responsibility. You have a bunch of people moving towards the same goal, and even if that goal is evil, it seems like it's going to be okay because it's not really you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's exactly.
It's easier to rape someone in front of 100 people than it is in front of one person.
Exactly, and ideas take on a mind of their own. All of a sudden, it becomes a snowball, and everybody's it's a confluence of sort of ideas. Exactly what you said, and all of a sudden, everybody's rolling toward this objective, and it's madness. Yeah. It's collective madness.
It starts with the drum beats.
Yep.
That's really where that comes from.
That's right.
Yep. And the collective consciousness.
But then it raises this question: you do define yourself, and a nation defines itself in some ways on what it's willing to fight for, what it's willing to go to war for.
Right, but when the nation's entire history is built on bullshit and murdering people for money, it's kind of hard to take that nation seriously. So that nation says, we're standing up for the right thing now. I know we fucked a lot of people over and killed millions in the name of oil and gas and minerals and whatever, but now we're America. It's halftime America.
Yeah, but see, I'm less critical. I'm less critical. I'm less critical.
Of course you are. I know, but what does that even mean? Well, your country is not the government. That's what's crazy. Your country is the people you know and you love. The ideals this country is founded upon is that this is America, land of the free, home of the brave. Meanwhile, they're sucking liberties out of us like a vampire with a fucking straw. That's not why we gotta for Ron Paul. Try, but you know what? They'll kill that old man. You know, I love Ron Paul. I wore a Ron Paul shirt on the Tonight Show and sat next to him.
Hey, ideas take a while. Ideas take a while, but let me tell you something. Ron Paul 4 years ago would not have gotten the percentage of support he got.
No, you're right, because they're still shutting him down. You know, the big news corporations are still they're just giving Michelle Bachmann attention and make a big deal about the fact that Rick Perry resigned. Like, Rick Perry is now going to support Mitt Romney. Oh, who gives a fuck? What is the guy at the gas station going to support? Interview him, because he's just as likely to be a leader as Rick fucking Perry, that dunce.
That's why I'm voting for Roseanne Barr, 2000.
Not a bad idea.
There you go.
I'd vote for Roseanne. I love Roseanne. I'd vote for her. A crazy bitch who run shit proper.
That's right.
Should put everybody in check.
We should have a woman in power. We should share some power with women.
Wrong.
What are you, a fucking
menstrual
liberal?
cramps, fucking
What are
all
you,
the
a
problems they
communist?
deal with, menopause. What are you talking about? Plus the fact that it's not normal for women to be running shit.
You obviously didn't see the iron.
The only time women run things correctly is when it's some crazy banana republic in the middle of nowhere and you get some crazy bitch who knows how to shoot people. She takes over for a short time and they make a movie about it after she's dead. That's when it works right.
Talking about you.
Yeah. Well, it was, like, who's Margaret Thatcher? But did she really let Margaret Thatcher?
Margaret Thatcher's no joke.
Margaret Thatcher, get out of
Margaret
here.
Thatcher's a She did run.
She was a male George Bush.
Yeah, right. No.
Male George Bush.
She's a lot smarter than
She's
George
smarter
Bush.
than George. She was a fucking figurehead.
Watch her.
She had a bunch of evil fucks behind her, working the strings, a bunch of bankers.
Watch her debates in Parliament. She gave as good as she got.
She did. So was Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton could debate her ass ass off.
Not even close. Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. Oh my God.
Do you know Meryl Streep made a movie about her?
Damn right.
They sent me one of those things in the
Isn't
mail,
that weird?
like one of those SAG things. I looked at them like this, and just imagine wasting my time watching this fucking stupid thing about.
I made a movie date night with my girlfriend. Crawl up on my couch and wear that. I will watch Meryl Streep do anything. That woman is that woman is an artist of the highest level, the greatest actor I've ever seen, male or female, on stage or off.
Okay, what are you talking about? She's not better than Gary Oldman. Shut the fuck up. Gary Oldman in Dracula? Shut your mouth. Gary Oldman in Dracula? Shut your fucking mouth. It's not even close, man. Get out of here, man. One of the greatest performances in human history. Fantastic. He's playing a silly thing. He's playing a vampire, and yet it's awesome.
It's awesome. He's a one-shot wonder.
What are you talking about?
He's a one-shot.
What was the Christian Slater movie? The Quentin Tarantino film?
True Romance.
True Romance. Are you fucking kidding me?
All right, I'll give you that.
Gary Oldman.
I'll give you that one.
What do you mean you give me that one? Meryl Streep was in The Bridges of Madison County. You fuck.
And
how
she
dare
was
you?
So beautiful.
Yeah, and boring. Oh my God, it's a relationship that they can't really get together. They don't be Chris McGuire, my friend, is a hilarious comedian, has a great bit about that. He's back in the days where they used to rent it, and he goes, you're picking the movies out with your girl. I don't have my Bridges of Madison County. He goes, okay, Clint Eastwood's in it. Clint's in it. Clint would never fuck me. And he goes, I'm watching the movie. He goes, 10 minutes into it, he goes, hey, Clint doesn't have a gun. That's what I did. That's exactly what I did. He goes, 20 minutes later, Clint's crying. And he goes, oh, Clint, you fucked me. He goes, he's crying because he doesn't have a gun. A fucking great bit, man.
Dude,
That's
so true.
Who was that, Joe? Chris McGuire.
You know who else?
He's going to do the podcast soon. I got to call him.
You know what? I fucking love though, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, he's another one. He's another one. Meryl Streep can't suck his balls.
Don't touch Meryl Streep. She's in a whole other...
Oh, you're out of your mind. I drink your milkshake.
Sir, you're out of your mind. Did you see how he played the boxer? Did you see that movie where he played that Irish?
He was really fantastic.
Fuck yeah, he was. He was for a whole year. That's all he did every day was box. He was the only guy ever to look like a real boxer. If you watch like Marky Mark in that fighter movie, he looks like a guy who's never been punched in the face. He looks like a guy, well, maybe he got punched in the face a few decades ago and forgot what it's like. Because every time he's throwing a punch, no one's coming at him. No one's coming back with counters. He's throwing punches, and there's like this lazy mentality to it. It's not like a guy. You watch Dickie Eklund. Go back and watch Mickey Ward's brother, Dickie Eklund. When that guy used to fight, he was a crazy dude. He did a lot of crack. He had a lot of problems. But his fucking guard was high and tight. And he threw a right hand, his left hand was here. If threw a left hand, his right hand was here. He was a guy who had been punched in the face before. He was a real fucking boxer. And that's the difference. When you watch a lot of actors that throw punches, they look like a guy who's never been punched in the face. That guy didn't. Daniel Day-Lewis looked like a real fucking boxer. Looked like a real fucking boxer.
He got in the ring and actually
Sylvester Stallone looks like the farthest possible thing from a real boxer in Rocky.
Never.
It doesn't even look remotely like a real boxer.
I know.
I think it's a metaphor. I think the entire fight was a metaphor. So I never took it. I never took it literally. You were on Californication last night.
I was on Californication last night.
The first episode.
I didn't watch it. I was on the first episode. I didn't watch it.
I will brook no opposition to Meryl Streep. She is amazing.
That's concussions, man. I'm telling you. If you had 3 less concussions, you'd be like, what am I saying?
A lot of estrogen running through his body.
You got time to eat a lot of edamame?
Hey, I like edamame. Salted. Daddy.
Dude,
what was Californication like?
I had a great time. Did
you work with David Duchovny?
Oh yeah, I torture him. I'm a cop. I'm a dick to him the whole time.
But knowing him and knowing what a freak he is, did you start talking to him about pussy?
Well, I don't want to say anything out of turn, but we did have a talk about it. And we did, and he's a really good guy, really funny guy, and he was really cool, and he never really just gets beyond this. I mean, he's always, talks about this side, and he's like, no.
Yeah, it was great on the X-Files. Everything else is like, I love California. Give him a fucking shot of caffeine.
I haven't seen this. I love the show, but I like the guy a lot.
He's no Meryl Streep.
Him? Oh, by the way, you know what I got along with really well? Reza, the guy from Wu-Tang Clan. He's a fucking great guy.
Oh yeah?
Oh dude, he's a great. We were laughing. He's just a great guy. He's like a rapper, Wu-Tang. He's the fucking He's the nicest guy. He loves it. He loves to laugh and just talk and telling me great fucking stories about how he went to Africa and they tried to rip him off. He had these fucking story after story, man. I go to him. You have kids? He goes.
Storyteller.
He goes. You have kids? He goes. I got. And he just fans his fingers out like across a horizon. He goes, man, I lived that lifestyle. I was hip hop, and like he has too many kids. He couldn't put his finger out. He just went like, you have kids? He goes, that was beautiful.
As someone who really loves being around their kids, that would depress the shit out of me. If I had a bunch of kids that I don't know what his situation is, but I know there's a lot of dudes.
He grew up hard, man. He grew up
that aren't raising their kids. You know, that would drive me crazy, man. If there was a bunch of human beings that I gave birth to or was responsible for their creation on this planet, and I never got to see them, and they were just existing.
But I think he does, because he was talking